It is time to pay tribute to another extinct attraction. This week we pay homage to Shrek 4D with our special guest and former senior creative director at Universal Creative, Zane Jensch. This is episode 493 of the unofficial Universal Orlando podcast. Hey, welcome to Shrek 4D. Come on in, prisoners, grab your Ogre Vision glasses and come all the way to the front and fill in every bit of open space. Make sure each of you has a pair of Ogre Vision glasses. They were specifically designed by Lord Farquaad himself, just before his untimely demise, to be both practical and stylish. Go ahead and put them on and take a look at our podcast cam. Isn't that the best 3D you've ever seen? What? It's not? Oh, right, that's because it isn't. So take off those ridiculous-looking glasses, you look silly. Now, by the order of the recently risen from the grave Lord Farquaad, it is my solemn duty and enormous pleasure to oversee your torture and escort you to your dank, dark, squalid prison. Eating or drinking while being tortured will result in a flogging. Does anybody know what a flogging is? Anyone? A flogging, for those of you who don't know, is a heavy beating with a large wooden stick. Sounds like fun, doesn't it? Exactly. So every time I say the word flogging, you're all going to go, oh no! Got it? Let's try it one time, shall we? Flogging. Oh no!
Oh
no! Well, it wasn't very good, but okay. It's time for my co-hosts and guests to wake up. Tracy.
Hello!
Connor.
Ah, hey!
And Michelle.
Hi!
And of course, our very special guest who probably has no clue what he's walked into at this
Running away now.
Mr. Zane Jensch. Hey, Zane.
Hello.
It adds a bit of professionalism to this whole thing.
Had to happen someday.
All right, prisoners, quickly, get in there and obey all the henchman's orders. Make sure you use all of the doors, especially that one on the far left. It's an actual working door that will take you to, you guessed it, the other side of this intro. Oh, and I forgot to mention the 30-second door timer, and you're down to about 15 seconds. So if you're in the back, you're going to want to make it. In fact, if those doors shut, you'll be trapped inside this podcast with me for the rest of eternity while I sing show tunes. I hope you like Oklahoma. Well, everyone, we are going to begin our tribute to Shrek. As we always do with these tribute shows, with a little bit of a look at the history of the attraction, and everyone feel free to kind of chime in as we are discussing the history of the attraction.
Okay. Well, way back in May of 2002, it was announced that Universal Studios Florida and Universal Studios Hollywood would be welcoming Shrek 4D to their lineups. At USF, it was announced that the same month that Alfred Hitchcock, The Art of Making Movies, would be closing and that Shrek 4D would be its replacement.
Spoilers, I think most people probably would have liked to have kept Alfred Hitchcock.
I would.
That's so good.
Never done it.
Well, the attraction costs $35 million and eventually opened on June 12th, 2003. To celebrate its 10th anniversary, the Florida location hosted a party on June 12th, 2013, with a giant birthday cake along with appearances from Shrek and Princess Fiona.
So again, Shrek hadn't opened that much, like our first trip. It hadn't opened long before our first trip, really, like a year or so.
And it cost $35 million.
I think Zane might have something to say about that.
Yeah. I should caveat all of this by saying that this is the time we're speaking about. I had just turned 20. This is half my lifetime ago. So I was definitely not in the room where it happened on this one. So there are, of course, tons of high-level conversations that I was never party to. So, there are definitely things I would not have known. Additionally, I will say, because it's now like 20 years ago, the Etch-a-Sketch has shaken a lot since then. So I'm going to remember things as best I can from this time period. I would not have had any kind of glimpse of the full financial picture on it.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, there is just no way in God's creation it was $35 million.
What, less or more?
significantly less. Oh my stars.
Okay.
It was like empty your pockets. Like what do you have on you? That's what we've got.
A bit of lint and a gum wrapper.
Yeah. The origins of the attraction are some of these things I'm not hearing firsthand. So I do want to, again, just put caveats on this. But I found out later that not long after Shrek debuted in theaters back in 2001, DreamWorks started converting it to 3D. And the plan was that they were going to bring the movie to Universal to put it into a theater so that you could watch kind of the whole feature. It would have been the 90-minute feature converted to 3D, and that was something that DreamWorks was going to like volunteer and bring to Universal. At some point when they were in the middle of the conversion of the movie to 3D, they reached out to an old boss of mine at this is in the original three partners of Thinkwell, Craig Hanna, Cliff Warner, and Francois Bergeron. They reached out to Craig. I believe some of the folks at DreamWorks had worked with Craig when he was at Universal, so they kind of knew him, and they said, "Hey, come take a look at this. We're converting this." And off of the like kind of horrifying realization, like, you think folks are going to sit still for like a 90-minute movie? Craig wrote a white paper where he kind of said like, hey, here are the drawbacks and the challenges to, you don't want people walking in and out of a movie. It's not going to be a positive experience. People don't sit still for that long of an attraction. In some kind of white paper he had written for DreamWorks, he also then suggested like, hey, the type of experience you probably want to do is closer to like a Muppet Vision type attraction. And I believe Craig at the time, threw some high level thoughts at that it had, and I remember seeing artwork way later after I had worked for Universal that I think Andy Sklar may have done. That showed like the Rubberhead Lord Farquaad like running through the theater, right. And it felt more like a kind of a big Muppet Vision type show. So Craig had kind of as a professional courtesy given that to DreamWorks. So I guess at some point DreamWorks reached out to Universal and kind of volunteered this idea of like, hey, if we create an original short 3D film for the park, will you kick in the money to put this into a custom theater experience? And I believe there was also, some of this was driven by, they had paused production on Shrek 2, which was in development at the time, for I think 6 months. I think they were kicking back a bunch of it to story again. So they had the crew for Shrek 2 kind of sitting around twiddling their thumbs. And there was this opportunity to like, if we move right now, we can get this 3D film in development at DreamWorks Animation, which was still a separate company at the time, still PDI. And we can volunteer that for Universal. And so I think it was all kind of thrown together really very quickly.
Okay.
That all predates my involvement with it. That was all before I started peeking over the office partitions and saying like, "Ooh, what are you working on? Well, right. I want to work on that. Let me start throwing gags at that." So that's, to the best of my knowledge, the origins. Yeah.
For all of you who don't attend Halloween Horror Nights, the second Shrek Theater has been used for many years now as a haunted house location, housing the likes of Asylum and Wonderland at HHN 25, Krampus at 26, Saw: The Games of Jigsaw at 27. Halloween 4 at 28, Tracy's favorite, Killer Clowns from Outer Space at HHN 29, and most recently at HHN 30, Legendary Truth Case Files Unearthed.
Some good houses in there, actually.
Heck yeah.
For those who haven't had the pleasure of experiencing the attraction, the queue is mainly along the outside of the building, passing by some hilarious Shrek-inspired movie posters, such as, I love this one, Donkey Horty, hilarious. Liar Liar, starring Pinocchio, and Claus, which is a Jaws reference, a Universal reference was where I'd actually gone, as well as a few jabs at the mouse with Lord Farquaad's Enchanted Tick Room, the show that will get under your skin.
Fabulous. Yeah. The pre-show begins with the Three Little Pigs, which is awesome, or was awesome. Gingy and Pinocchio revealing that Lord Farquaad has kidnapped them and is holding them in in Castle Dulox's dungeon. Gingy flees in the middle of the explanation, and the magic mirror begins to summarise the story of what happened before in the first Shrek film by stating, "A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away," as a Star Wars pun.
Just in case you didn't know it was a Star Wars pun.
When he's chastised, he quickly responds, "Sorry, I've been feeling really spaced out lately."
Ba-bum.
After the mirror finishes, Lord Farquaad appears and tells guests that he intends to torture the fairy tale creatures as well as the audience in order to find Shrek and Fiona. The monitor screen later shows a test card with Lord Farquaad at the centre. The mirror then warns the audience about safety. The theatre doors are then opened and guests take their seats in the theatre.
Right. The pre-show. And
The best
sorry,
bit.
Zane, I know you worked on this, but I know you actually did some of the pre-show as well, which is kind.
Yep.
Is by far the best part of this attraction.
Love the
And that's
pre-show.
not
yeah.
to say that the show itself is bad,
Oh no, the pre-show is just
but
phenomenal.
the pre-show is awesome.
Yes, agreed.
It's like the animatronics, the screen and stuff, it all just works so well. And I love the three little pigs
Yes,
in Shrek. They are
it's
my
hilarious.
favourite characters. Especially, I don't know why I seem to have this affinity for German again. So I kind of like that they are German pigs. It's hilarious. But it's so good. It just... Like Universal do pre-shows so well, and that was when you think how old that was. That the pre-show was still really, really good.
And originally there was no pre-show.
Really?
Because something, again, this is kind of outside of what would have been my wheelhouse at the time, but I believe DreamWorks was kind of only on the hook to create the main show film, which is why it's kind of an island. It's kind of incongruous to what happens before and after it, and that's a whole other kind of story.
Okay.
But it is they were only going to create a main show, and so I kept bugging the attraction's creative director, a guy named Chris Lauren, who was incredibly supportive and really patient with a 20-year-old who just kept annoying him nonstop. Like, we should add this, and there should be a post-show, and what about a meet and greet, and what about Q graphics, and all these things that there was no budget, no interest, no support for. He was incredibly supportive. Scott Trowbridge was too. They were both incredibly supportive of this wildly annoying 20-year-old. But the as part of that, one of the things that we kept poking at was like, how do we set up this story? Because the main show film presupposes that not only has everybody seen the first Shrek film, but has it memorized.
That's
so that there is boy, I hope you remember, like they went over the rise in the onion carriage, and then they showed up here, and it's like, I hope you already know that. So functionally in the show, we had to introduce the story, we had to introduce the style of humor, we had to introduce the characters. Who is this ghost who's coming in? We had to introduce just a ton of exposition really quickly, and originally there was no media for that. So I kind of took, I was given just the tiniest bit of rope, which was, as usual, every time Scott Trowbridge gave me like a tiny bit of rope, he regretted it instantly. And I think was trying to respond to like, okay, well, these folks are saying this thing, these folks are saying this thing. Okay, well, I'll write 40 different versions of a pre-show, and I'll let everybody just fight it out for what they like best. And we had just like wildly different versions of it, some of which got kind of referenced in some of the Q graphics, because those were all supposed to zipper together, even though the whole production was happening very quickly. But the one that kind of lasted the longest and was favored amongst Scott and Chris Lauren and I was a version of it where you're stepping into the pre-show chamber, and it was going to be a tavern, which felt like kind of an easy environment for us to kind of be able to afford on a shoestring budget, and felt like something that would just naturally invite in travelers, and was a good excuse to kind of exchange stories. And it was, in my concept, it was the Villain's Tavern. So this predates the existence of the Poison Apple in Shrek 2. And this was a whole notion of like, oh, you'll go into a Villain's Tavern. I think I called it at one point Jeers, which was a Jeers reference. That's how happening that reference
Brilliant.
was. Like, hey kids, ask your grandparents about a sitcom named Cheers. And then at a separate point, it got called Foes, which is the advertisement that wound up in the queue for the happy hour, grumpy hour, dopey hour. That was the Villain's Tavern, which in the first meeting I was in with the DreamWorks folks, they very promptly said that they hated. And then a couple years later, seeing Shrek 2 in theaters is like, oh, I guess he didn't hate it that much. But it was originally a villain's tavern, and it was a great excuse for like an ops cast member to have their have a ton of exposition. It's like, well, if they're the innkeeper or the tavern keeper or the bar back, they're going to, chat it up with you. And that was a good excuse for us to introduce a lot of stuff, not knowing if we were ever going to be able to afford media. There was no promise that we could afford to do any animated or live action media. And at one point, to kind of set up the whole story of Farquaad's back from the dead, so all the kind of fairy tale characters who've all been able to like now live out in the open are suddenly in danger again because of the reemergence of Farquaad. That was all going to get introduced when he flipped on the big screen, the bar's big screen magic mirror.
Okay,
that was going to be the like delivery device for this story, and it was going to be an episode of Cops. Was on,
wow.
which also wound up in Shrek 2. So that tickled me, though. More so now. At the time, I think it irked me a little bit more that those didn't wind up in the attraction, but they did wind up in Shrek 2, which made like $1 billion.
They were actually saying the magic mirror from the pre-show is currently in the Williams of Hollywood prop shop in Universal Studios for $7,000.
Yeah, that's probably about what it cost to build originally.
Really?
So it's all right.
Okay.
But yeah, so no, originally there was no pre-show, and we just kind of slowly kind of chipped away at, could we do a little bit of a pre-show? Could we do something in there? And I think when we were pitching the Villains Tavern idea, then DreamWorks came back and said, we'll do whatever it takes to get animation in here to do the right thing by the pre-show, which then of course evolved into the dungeon story and everything that followed. But yeah, no, originally there was no media or practical effects or anything pre-show, and we just kept chipping away at it until we got some support for it.
It would have been really weird to have it just been like Shrek to have like walked into the theater and then like for no preamble into it, to just walk in, sit down, watch this 4D attraction and then walk out. It would feel weird, especially like that's not what Universal do. That's not what a top tier theme park does.
No, and there was, and you hit the nail on the head. It was, that's a big part of why Magic Mirror in the version of the pre-show that was there for 19 years did a little bit of a recap on Shrek 1.
Yeah.
It's just to tee up all that exposition so that you kind of knew what you were getting into, not just for the characters, but also like we have to set up the style of humor. We have to set up like this is a very specific world and story. So that's why he does all that, and why we had to keep adding things back in as DreamWorks was asking for cuts in the length of that pre-show, where we did the like highlights reel of Shrek 1. It's like no, it's really important here to like hit the emotional part of it too. That like he and Fiona they broke her enchantment because of this that it was love on the inside and all. Like there's kind of a line in the like we wanted to make sure you knew that it wasn't just like the joke about the fart joke and all this. Like we have to set up the style of humor, but like people connected with these characters, and we have to in just a couple minutes tell you why.
Yeah. But like you also said, it's that thing of not everyone who walks into that theme park has seen those movies or experienced whatever the media is, and you've got to you've actually got me thinking now of a lot of the attractions inside the parks and how many of them you could walk into with no knowledge of the IP and understand what is going on.
And there's a whole bunch of different ways, to set up the world, to set up the style of humor, to set up the story. The limitations we had on Shrek 4D meant that we were just doing very much once upon a time story time. We were just doing kind of a big exposition dump. But there's lots of great ways. Just across the way at Minion Mayhem, like Despicable Me sets up its style of humor because you have Gru's house and the wonderful propping and things. Like there's great ways to introduce this that are way less oh my gosh, just a dump truck backs up exposition, for 90 seconds. But yeah, it's really critical because you don't want to presume everyone has remembered not only all the nuances of the stories, even if they are familiar with it, but the things that are going to be important to this experience you're going into. So, you may have seen and loved Shrek, the movie, but we want to make sure that, like, hey, don't forget Farquaad. Don't forget what his goal was. Even though he's dead, he's going to be really important for this attraction for reasons.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so the short film itself, Shrek 4D, takes place immediately after the first Shrek movie. The spirit of Lord Farquaad returns from the dead to capture Princess Fiona, and it's up to Shrek and Donkey to rescue her. The search leads Shrek and Donkey searching around the local graveyard. Farquaad sends a stone statue of a dragon from his tomb to go after and kill them, similar to the dragon that we all know and love. Fortunately, the real dragon arrives to the rescue, leading to a chase scene featuring the sound of TIE Fighters blasters from Star Wars when the dragon shoots a fireball to create a tunnel in a cliff face, ending with the stone dragon losing its wings against the walls of a hole and falling into the water below. Lord Farquaad sends Fiona on a raft to fall over the waterfall with Thelonious still on it, not realizing he was supposed to get off. Fiona. Excuse me. Fiona. Yeah. That's her sister. No,
she's
Fiona,
non-union and she's
not canon. Fiona manages to break the restraints and knees Thelonious in the groin, causing him to fall off the raft. Shrek and Donkey arrive shortly after to rescue her before the raft plunges over the waterfall, but in the end, all four of them fall over the waterfall, only to be saved by Dragon, who then, under Donkey's orders, breathes fire at Farquaad, seemingly destroying him again. Dragon gives Shrek and Fiona a ride to Honeymoon Hotel, and she and Donkey ride off to have their honeymoon of their own. Shrek and Fiona's honeymoon is interrupted by the fairy tale creatures to celebrate after Shrek says, "Let the honeymoon begin." Shrek then pops the cork of a bottle of champagne, sending one of the fairies flying with the cork into the wall of the theater, ending the film. Guests then leave the theater to enter the gift shop. Shrek's Ye Olde Souvenirs.
I mean, I'm not being funny, but there's a ton of innuendo in there again.
There's a lot. And the queue, we were talking about it earlier, the queue has some pretty, I'm surprised it lasted this long, that it's on the walls of Universal.
I'm going to be super real with you. We had very little parental supervision.
Yeah, but that's good. That's what makes Universal stand out.
The whole project.
Yeah.
It's kind of,
That's what makes Universal stand out above Disney. I remember the first trip we ever came over, and they make no mistake, we are not Disney.
Mm-hmm.
It's a stupid thing. I always remember going into Circus McGurkus, and I can't remember. I think I got a milkshake or a soda or something, and they hadn't given me it, and I was like, "Oh, you haven't given me it." He went, "Hey, it'll come in a minute," and I was like, "Okay, that was a bit." It's like, "This isn't Disney. I don't need to be nice to you." I was like, "Fair enough." And I love that though, because they've continued to. I think they tried maybe 5 to 8 years ago, where I think they wanted to challenge Disney for that family market, and I think they've realised that they just can't compete with it, and now they've
I'm glad.
Yeah, and they've gone back to where you look at Hagrid's and Velocicoaster and Bourne, of doing what they do best and aiming at that teen to older market, and I think that is what they do best. And I'm glad they haven't tried to do Disney.
And personally, I appreciate all the touches of innuendo around.
It's brilliant.
Because what's great is when the kid does not understand why their parent is giggling.
Exactly.
And it's just...
I mean, to be fair, we're terrible at it.
It's with Shrek, it's like layers, like an onion.
Yes. What a brilliant reference.
Oh, yes. I'm on form tonight.
All right. Although the movie animation is 3D, the attraction itself is classed as 4D, as it incorporates physical effects, including motion seats which tilt forward, backward, vibrate, give you whiplash,
yes, they
raise
do.
up, and drop down during the show. Water sprayers are attached to the back of each seat to spray the face of the rider sitting behind it. Water sprayers on the ceiling spray riders seated on the front row.
Of course, because it's not a Universal attraction if there's not water or fire in there.
Correctamundo. Yes. Multiple lighting effects are used, such as projected images of a moving waterfall on the walls or magical sparkles of flittering light. Air blasters on the front of every seat blow air against riders' neck and head. Leg ticklers are also used to simulate spiders crawling across the theater.
Wow.
Stationary seats, which do not move during this film, are marked and available for those who want to watch the film without the motion or vibration or hospitalization, but all the other effects are available whilst sitting in the stationary seats.
If there was ever an attraction that should never have been opened during a pandemic, reading that, this is the one.
It's amazing they didn't market with that towards the end.
It's like water sprays. I mean, if you saw those water jets after 20 years of operation,
I don't even want to think about it because that is
disgusting.
no.
I promise you don't. Yeah.
No, because I have major issues with stuff like that.
And the hydraulics in those seats must be amazingly well maintained or just very well built. Because, I mean, hands up, being completely honest, I'm not sure we've done Shrek 4D since the first time we took the kids in 2009.
Oh.
I've only ever done it twice.
It's gotten rough. Like over the years, it's gotten rougher and rougher.
It's
for
loud.
Sure.
You're talking about the hydraulics.
Yeah.
It got loud.
Yeah, their pneumatics and those things were deafening from word go.
I was seeing the entire rows of empty seats just.
Yeah, they look like, how are they
gonna
still?
come out of the housing.
Yes, they looked like they were going to all fly off.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, when it's not a fully loaded row and you can see the seats kind of dancing on their own,
dancing, that's a nice way to put it.
Yeah, hold on tight. It was
It's crazy.
It was definitely rough.
Yeah. Outside Donkey's Photo Finish, which is a meet and greet attraction that opened in 2003 alongside the film, replacing stage 54, consists of guests walking up to an animatronic donkey, which is awesome, and we haven't actually done it, which is disgusting.
No, I know, and apparently there was a video on TikTok recently of them so absolutely ripping someone to bits who had a Disney, I think it's either Mickey ears or a Disney shirt, and I haven't watched it, but...
Donkey mingles with them and it doesn't mingle, he chats with them.
Look, I only got this off Wikipedia. As usual, I've just copy and pasted and taken
you never
a little
use
bit.
Wiki. Good grief, no wonder it's all wrong. And of course, Donkey makes fun of them in the best way possible. The guests then have their picture taken with Donkey and move on to meeting Shrek and Princess Fiona. And it's quite fun to see them interact as well, because they quite often do. The attraction temporarily closed in June 2012 to make way for Transformers The Ride 3D before reopening in a new location next to Monsters Cafe.
I don't remember it in its original location. To be fair, I don't remember what was there before Transformers, to be honest. I'm old now, my memory isn't quite what it was. But even though the attraction has closed, Donkey's Photo Finish is still operating.
I hope it stays, because it is fun.
I was about to say, it's so funny, because every time I walk by there, Donkey is talking about how sad he is. About, like, he's like, oh yeah, they closed my attraction down, but you know what? I'm still here.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than those type of meet and greets. Like we found coming over with the kids, when you do the non-face characters, it can be incredibly awkward. Our kids didn't have a clue what to do with them because you can't talk to them.
Can?
Or they're kind of gesturing and they're like, this is weird. They're like looking at us going, what do we do? This is weird. Yet one's like Shrek or Fiona. Not Shrek, sorry, Donkey and Fiona. You can have a bit of banter with them, and Universal's actors are on point when it comes to their improvisation skills. So it's so good.
The more sarcastic, the better.
The performers are incredible.
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah.
And I'd hate to get off topic, but like going off of like the improv actors and stuff.
Yeah.
Hollywood's Transformers, at least Megatron, is like that. And it's some of the funniest stuff. And yet here in Orlando, our Megatron is just a soundboard or whatever it may be. Like it's, he just says what he says. It's still fun, but I feel like it could be a lot more fun.
I'm going to get on my soapbox now, because they did Gregory, who used to be part of the podcast, used to work over at Transformers, and they did a one-day test of it, the interactive Megatron. And that was it. It was a one-day test, and they never did it again. And the reason we heard that they didn't do it, Zane, I don't know whether you've heard this, but the reason apparently was there's too many non-English speaking guests that come to Universal Orlando. And if that's true, it makes me go, right, but literally across the road, you've got Donkey doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with any reasons why that would or wouldn't have gone to Orlando. I will say the interactions in Hollywood, though, with the Transformers are incredible.
Yeah. Also,
they have a beautiful new donkey puppet just outside the DreamWorks Theater where the Kung Fu Panda attraction is, and he does wonderful interactions. And my favorite is, I don't know if you've seen that for the Lunar New Year, that they will do Mr. Ping.
Okay.
Poe's father from Kung Fu Panda in his, at his noodle house, at his restaurant, as this incredible puppet that does these wonderful interactions with guests. And I wish Mr. Ping was in every theme park. Like, those interactions are fantastic. And I know that was a partnership between Universal Hollywood's Entertainment Group and Myco too. So they did that interaction, and I just adore all the stuff with Mr. Ping. I think they worked on the new donkey there as well, which is a beautiful puppet. I wish would come to Orlando. Looks so great.
That's awesome, because of course it's Lunar New Year right now.
Yeah. I said, didn't I? Got the email about them doing the Noodle House this year temporarily.
Yeah.
Have you taken a stroll down Diagon Alley and visited Gringotts Bank? Taken a ride through New York with Jimmy Fallon? Visited the Truffula trees in Seuss Landing, or hung out with a real-life Transformer? No? Then what are you waiting for? At Universal Orlando Resort, there truly is an option for everyone. Or if you're leaning a little more towards pixie dust rather than wands and potions, Disney destinations around the globe await your arrival. No matter the adventure, our sponsors have you covered. Be sure to let the experts at Mouse Muggle Travel Company take care of all your travel needs, earning the distinction of being an earmarked agency specializing in Disney destinations, as well as becoming one of the first to be named a U Preferred agency with Universal Parks and Resorts Vacations. Mouse & Muggle Travel Company will ensure you receive top-rated customer service. Just visit mouseandmuggle.com to fill out a no-obligation quote request, or send your request to info@mouseandmuggle.com. Their team can take care of you no matter where in the world you want to go. With a flick of their wand and a little bit of pixie dust, the process will be so seamless, some might even say it's simply magical.
Michelle, you've been very quiet about Shrek. What are your opinions on it?
Well, if you don't have anything nice to say, just kidding. My most recent experiences with it were just, it was so outdated, you know, like it, and that's what's closest in my memory. It just needed a really big overhaul as far as like the technical aspects of it go, because it was not very pleasant to experience. Well, it could have been, you know, it just felt outdated. The characters are awesome and the gift shop were awesome. But in all honesty, it's been one of those things that I've pretty much just kind of walked past most of my trips for the past few years.
Yeah.
So I'm not super sad to see it go. I love the films. I think they're brilliant, but I'm happy for something more current to take its place for sure.
I think that's the thing.
I wonder what that will be.
When it first came in, 3D and 4D attractions were the new hotness, weren't they? And the problem is that people have got, we all know how much Universal have been ragged on the amount of 3D attractions that they've got in the park. So it became something that's been there for nearly 20 years. And then also the sort of the old school version of the attractions that people are already complaining about. There's just another 3D attraction in the parks. And I'm actually genuinely surprised it's lasted as long as it has, especially when a lot of the complaints about it were the video itself comes free on the Shrek DVD, so I could just sit and watch it at home.
Yeah.
I will say, it was a shockingly long run.
Yeah.
It was a, nearly 19 years in Orlando, and ran in Hollywood for a good long run. I'm trying to remember when it closed to make way for Kung Fu Panda, but it still runs in Osaka. It still runs in its custom theater in Singapore. There was really kind of no assumption that it would run for a fraction of that long. Usually when you're doing a 3D theater-based attraction, you're putting in an infrastructure so that you hope that you can rotate through more more content more frequently than that. It becomes easier to redo, and it just stayed. It kept getting more popular. The second theater that was added to it. So I don't know if anyone's familiar with the original Alfred Hitchcock, The Art of Making Movies attraction, which was wonderful. I was obsessed with that as a kid. I loved that attraction. Like a normal 9-year-old, I loved the Alfred Hitchcock.
Yes.
But it had 2 big theater spaces, and then it had a gigantic post show with some really outstanding interactives and some really fun bit of business at the finale. It was really kind of a third act to the attraction. It was so large. The first theater for Hitchcock was all that was, the lobby and the first theater was all that was transformed for Shrek 4D originally.
Right.
And then the waits were so long and it was so much more popular than anticipated that I think it was 2 years after opening. It may have been 2005 or could have been 2006. I do not remember. I was not with the company at the time. But they doubled it. They took the second Hitchcock theater, which had been sitting there, with the power cut off in it for a couple of years, and converted it to a second Shrek theater. And in order to access it, they had to add a whole second pre-show, which is not typically how you want to do those things. You kind of want a pre-show that then can feed into one of 2 theaters. Yeah, but it had never been conceived to work that way. So they kind of routed the queue back around and added a whole second theater to it because it was just so popular and it just had such a long wait. And so they just kind of kept it going. So yeah, it was certainly kind of an unusual experience. I always, was, frustrated by the fact that the main show and the pre-show seemingly have nothing to do with each other. They look like they were developed by separate groups. They were. There was DreamWorks really stayed separate. And kind of really pushed back against any efforts to kind of knit the pre-show to the main show. And it was always kind of a surprise when we would get media back from the main show. It's like, oh, they're doing that. I guess they disregarded any of the feedback we had given to like, hey, can we pull these ideas together? And so it was, I think that was the one that still gnaws at the back of me. Like, oh my gosh, like, you're in this dungeon torture chamber. Everything is set up with Ghost Farquaad, kind of sweeping back through the kingdom and scooping up all the fairy tale critters again, and then heading off to intercept Shrek and Fiona and Donkey on their carriage ride. But then, unrelated to that, you go to this beautiful plush theater, and it has these red velvet curtains. And for some reason, there's a curtain that goes up. There's curtains that part side. It's this very splashy, kind of plush, like royal theater environment. It's like, I don't know why we go here from the torture chamber. But,
yeah, that doesn't make sense.
I will say, like, it gnaws at the back of my head, but it never bothered them enough that it ruined the show. It seemed to, like, everybody kept enjoying the show. So it's one of those that, like all, designers, like I, see the, oh my God, the laundry list of like, why is this way? Why couldn't we do this? Oh my gosh, $10 more over here. Or why couldn't we get support for this idea? You always see the ghosts of what bother you in an attraction and what you wish had happened differently. That through no malice of intent, like nobody set out to do anything wrong. It's just these things are a lot of moving parts. They're really hard to do.
Yeah,
and you can always see all the flaws, but then like I went back right before closing, and I'm mortified by like, oh my gosh, the condition of the lighting in here. I can't hear the main show film for all the screaming of the pneumatics.
Yes.
I'm bothered by this. And then I was finally able to tune that out because it's like, oh, people are laughing. Like, oh, they're screaming over there. Like, they're good screams, good squeals. Not screaming like I am, like, why is the lighting so bad? And it was lovely. It was really nice to revisit it and kind of like wash away all the years of like, oh, why is it this way? Why couldn't we get a little bit more support for this? And it was nice to remember that, like, oh yeah, guests don't care. They just loved it and had fun anyway. They came in without baggage. The designers, we come in with all the baggage, all the emotional baggage of why this. So yeah, it was nice to revisit and get a fresh a look at it through fresh eyes.
Yeah, I feel kind of sad that it's been that long. Like, it makes me realize that you should ride every attraction every time you visit the parks, because you never know that might be the last time you get to do it. And whether you like it or not, just to be able to say that it hasn't been 13 years since the last time we experienced Shrek 4D.
Well, and to make you feel better from a guest perspective, I never honestly thought of the fact that I wasn't walking into what looked like a torture chamber when I walked into the theater until you just mentioned that.
That's because those seats were like a torture chamber.
Yeah.
It never crossed my mind that was like inconsistent. Now, of course, I can't stop seeing it.
No, you can't. Now that it's like Inception. Like, I've now introduced this idea.
Exactly. But
don't think about elephants. What are you thinking
about? Then the chairs, the pneumatics start, and then you're like, the torture chamber.
Exactly.
I get it now.
Yes.
Well, and there was way more restraint on kind of all of the in-theater effects in the original kind of intent for it. There was going to be like one water spritz. There was going to be kind of one leg tickle. There was going to be one kind of neck blast. But they do this. I don't know if anyone's familiar with kind of dial testing, where it's something, I think it came out of television originally, where they would focus group television shows, and there's a dial in front of everyone, and they, and it goes from like 1 to 10, and it's like, you just move the dial constantly to like how this all makes you feel, which I think explains the state of what television was for about its first 50 years. But they did dial testing at Shrek in Hollywood in its first kind of days of previews. And the park insisted then, this like, well, this should be a 10 the whole time. And it's like, well, that's crazy. That's not how stories work. No. You have highs and lows, and you need to take a breath. And some things are funny and some things are scary. And they can't always be at like a 10. Like, that's crazy. But no, they had to always be at 10. So that's why there are inexplicable water bursts like every 9 seconds to just goose the audience. That all gets added by request or demand of the park. So
wow. Because we talk about Halloween Horror Nights with the Halloween Horror Nights house. If it was scare, you would become, I mean, to be fair, we are all completely desensitized to it. But as an average guest going through, you need those down moments so that when the scare does happen, it hits. And that's got to be the same for every attraction.
Heart rate back down as well.
Yeah. No, it's pretty fundamental to like guest experience and storytelling, but like that was not the request. So I know that they went back in and goosed the audience a good deal more than originally intended on all that.
I love that term, goosed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was this the first attraction that Universal did that was like immediately after a big success of a movie? Because everything else that was previously there was pre-established, either had a bunch of sequels, stuff like that. Was this like the first time they made an attraction that was like, it just come out a year or two ago?
No, I think Men in Black.
That's a great question.
Men in Black might have been around one of the early ones. Didn't that open in 2000?
Yeah, from the 97 film.
Yeah.
I think there were certainly different scale attractions that would open kind of right on the heels of the release of a movie or a TV show. So, obviously in the studio tour in Hollywood, where there were a lot of kind of very modular pieces. So you could do something based around Airport 77 and kind of swap that in very quickly, or the summer that Casper comes out, there's a Casper sequence in the special effects tour, things like that. There were attractions that opened not quite day and date, but some of them, like Miami Vice, was going to be a Rambo stunt show originally, and was for the entirety of its development until, gosh, this is a question for Phil Hedema, but I think it was like 2 or 3 months before the attraction debuted, before the show debuted. They got the call from the studio that that this is no longer Rambo. You're going to do Miami Vice because it's this new TV series that's debuting on the network, and it's doing really well. So they could move very quickly on that. this was certainly, a larger indoor permanent media-based attraction, kind of right on the heels. So it certainly would have been a shorter turnaround time. I jumped onto this, I think not having been asked. I think I just said, like, I'm here now, so this is what I'm doing. In February, I think, of 2002. And the film had debuted in, I think it was June of 2001 or maybe May. It had been early that summer. And this was already kind of settled. It's going to be a 3D movie. It's going into the Hitchcock Theater 1. And then I just kept plussing. I just kept adding things that no one had any scope or interest in. Like, it should have a queue. It should have the Duloc singing dolls in the queue to do the safety spiel.
That would be cool. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I wrote a whole set of lyrics for the safety spiel for the attraction as the Duloc singing dolls. Because this is all happening concurrent to the Fantastic World of Hanna-Barbera was getting renovated to get turned into Jimmy Neutron's Nicktoon Blast, which I was also really lucky to insert myself into the process on. I think Eric Thomas didn't ask on that either. I just sort of volunteered myself, like, I'm here now.
Yeah, Tracy loved Jimmy Neutron.
It was
so
such a fun.
Yeah.
It was so terrific. But I was trying to like harvest pieces out of the post show for Hanna-Barbera and like reclad them for a post show for Shrek and things. I think I had this Duloc singing dolls. There was no money or interest in this, but some folks like they found money because they got excited about when we could kind of chip away at things and add the pieces to the queue. There was no themed gift shop for the exit. There was no budget. There was no interest in doing that. I think there was exit retail, but it was very generic. And I think that came from the money came from merchandise itself. I think they got excited about what we were doing in the queue. And so they said, like, well, could we, bring this a little bit more into the language of the film? And so they, spent their dollars really smartly. So if you remember the honeymoon hotel that you exit through for the gift shop, if you looked up and saw the stairwell there, that was the old stairwell from the Hitchcock attraction.
That's where it was.
That was the Vertigo staircase.
I did when we came over in 2019, we actually did a weekend event and I did a tour around the parks of hints and sort of references to former attractions. And I knew that was in there, but I didn't know where it was. Right. Now I know where it is.
It's that if you looked up at that stairwell, that was the top half of the old Vertigo stairwell. Okay. Which had some really fun kind of audio gags in there where you could hear Dragon and Donkey on the staircase.
Cool.
They didn't get a room at the honeymoon hotel, but they found themselves a little corner on the staircase. And then every now and then you would hear one of the other guests in the hotel kind of open the door and peek out at what the noise was on the staircase. And you hear them scream and slam the door.
I love stuff like that.
None of that was in there originally. That was all just stuff that because we're kind of slowly chipping away and adding fun, graphic stuff for the queue that other folks kind of got excited and scrounged up some dollars and put a lot more, kind of embroidery around the 3D film itself, which was really lovely. People did some terribly clever things with very few dollars. I have to say, like, while we're talking about people who did brilliant work for with the very limited budget they were given, all of the graphics for the attraction I had written, but they were all designed by the brilliant Wayne Clark, who has a long storied history with Universal Graphics. He did all of the signage and graphic design for Port of Entry, for Islands of Adventure at opening. He did all the signage for Jurassic Park as well. So like the little the two dinosaurs that are sipping out of like a Coke float that's on that sign back in Jurassic Park, that was Wayne. Wayne had worked on the signage for, I think, at least Main Street and maybe some other stuff for Hong Kong Disneyland.
Okay.
And he's just recently worked on Universal Beijing, I think, kind of park-wide graphics. Wayne did all of the design, like just any crazy thing that I, would sneak to him and say like, hey, how about these next 15 signs? Wayne would do all the design work for those, and they were really brilliant. He just turned around a ton of hysterical work in no time flat. That was all Wayne's doing. I think the only poster that didn't make the cut out of everything we were doing for the kind of the parody posters in the queue, which were all originally, again, tied a little bit more into the story. The idea was that Farquaad had come back from the dead. He was rounding up all the fairy tale creatures again. And he was also, creating a new line of attractions for Duloc, his kind of Farquaad theme park world that he lived in. And so all of the attractions were torture devices that he was creating. So it was all a little bit more knit together in the original story. And that's where all of those attraction posters originally started. That was all part of that story. They weren't just kind of these random jabs. They were tied into the story. And the only one that Wayne did that we didn't get to put in finally was a Journey into Farquaad's Imagination poster. And Wayne designed the most hysterical Dreamcatcher machine that was like a giant torture device with Farquaad sitting in the Dreamfinder seat holding like a little figment-sized version of the fire-breathing dragon.
Nice.
And, that's great.
It went through a field of upside-down toilets. From, if you're familiar with the Journey into Your Imagination version of the attraction, that took great pains to highlight an upside down toilet. I think that was the only poster that Scott said that's too much inside baseball. Like, that's completely fair. It's crazy that any of these are in here. So that was the only one of Wayne's hysterical designs that didn't make it in.
I love that Universal do when they start parodying other stuff, especially when it's aimed at Disney. I mean, the stuff in like the Simpsons queue is awesome.
Those are hysterical.
Yeah, it's so good. And we're kind of getting to the end, Zane. It's been good. It's kind of made me miss it a little bit.
I know.
I don't know whether there's any other little stories you can give our listeners before we tootle off.
Oh gosh. No, as with everything, there are a million stories and blood, sweat, and tears into every kind of rivet of the attraction. The one that is, it is an attraction that's kind of, for all of its flaws that I would always see, some of which we've learned I'm really haunted by to this day. Even though the attraction is now closed, it still gnaws at me. It still is. It holds a really special place in my heart, not just for. It's an attraction that eventually went into 6 theme parks around the world. Yeah. 2 of which even outside of Universal. So it was always, really lovely to think of like, well, here's this attraction that like in time zones, like when I'm asleep, that's still getting laughs, that's still making people happy. It was also, right at the beginning of my career, and I learned a ton of great lessons on this one. And it was all thrilling and fast. And it was like, honestly, it was much closer to like putting on a theater show, like just quick, get it up, far more than like kind of traditional attraction design. My favorite memory of which was it had just started previews in Hollywood. We were, I think, 2 or 3 weeks out from, I think it was just 2 weeks out from opening in Orlando. And then it was going to be a couple more weeks before it opened in Osaka in Japan. And and I got a call from Chris Lauren, the attraction's creative director, asking me to come in and like, it's like, can you, we have like 8 hours. Can you rewrite the entire queue video because it doesn't match anything that DreamWorks gave us. So we need to like somehow zipper this together. Also, Ops needs a spiel, which then they augmented and embroidered and added a ton of stuff of their own to it. So that got ridiculously long. But it was just like I had like overnight to go to the attraction, and Chris Lauren like shoved his laptop into my hand and dispatched me to the second Hitchcock theater, which was had the power cut in it at that point. Oh. So it's a pitch black theater, right. And I was writing the Q video as well as a bunch of other just this and that needed written overnight. Sitting on the steps of, if you remember the Hitchcock Theater 2, it had an in for out set of the Bates Motel. So I was sitting on the steps of the Bates Motel right in front of the Psycho House. Nice. By the light only of Chris Lauren's laptop. And it was the time of my life. Like that, you could not imagine something more fun. It's like, this is terrifying. Is this really how themed entertainment happens? And it's like, yes, it does. So oddly enough, this is how it happened. So it got an overnight rewrite. So that is a lot of kind of early favorite memories from good hard lessons learned were on Shrek 4D, and I was only able to do that because I had really very patient mentors over there, people who should not have been as generous with their time or as supportive as they were, and that meant the world.
It's really interesting to look at, like, from an outsider's point of view, to look at the attraction. You say it has had an immensely long run. Then you start looking at why now? Why have they chosen now to close it and put something else in? I mean, I assume it must have been the guest satisfaction ratings and the throughput, the amount of guests that were putting through on a daily basis has obviously been pretty high throughout its run. But you often wonder, what's the reason they decided to pull the trigger on closing it now? Because we've expected it to close. Realistically, we've been talking about it on the podcast for 5 years of, like, surely it's time for Shrek to go now.
And you never know. I'm certainly not part of those conversations. No. But, you're always looking for, operators are always wisely looking for utilization, right? It's like, where do we have a facility that is not doing the numbers it used to do for throughput? They clearly still have the crowds. Where is there an opportunity to put in new show and new lifeblood, which is a great idea. It's a prime location for something great and new.
Definitely.
And it's it certainly had a great long run. Like can't fault that at all. So it was really nice to see that it got the reaction it did on the final night. I had already traveled for my new project, but I did get to see the videos on Twitter of folks singing Hallelujah in front of the closed attraction. It tickled me. But I know that what's headed there next is going to be a great big really imaginative new show. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm not going to ask you what it is because I know you can't tell us, but do you know what's going in there, Zane?
Oh my, yes. Yeah.
Tease everybody listening, like, ask him. I'm not going to ask you because I know you can't tell us, but
no, there's a really great team that was working on something when I was just wrapping up my last commitments at Universal. They were working on the new thing of what it was going to be, and some of the folks over there had picked my brain about it. Okay. I thought they've got something really fun up their sleeve, so I hope that translates and is a big hit for them and runs for twice as long as Shrek did.
I think it shows you how well beloved it was among at least a certain faction of the theme park community that the Farewell to Shrek shirts that they released sold out pretty much instantly. And whether they're eBay scalpers or not, we don't know, but they didn't last long, which is good.
Yeah, it would have been lovely if they had more Shrek 4D merchandise while it was an operating attraction. But hey, better late to the party than not to arrive at all.
Exactly.
That's true.
Anyone else got any comments they want to make before we finish?
No,
Connie, you've been really quiet, and Michelle for that matter.
We're just listening.
I've been like engulfing all the information. Like, this is awesome to listen to.
Yeah.
This is why I do this podcast, because I just enjoy listening to all these stories.
Yeah, we get to be a listener on these shows.
Basically.
It's great.
Zane, it has been awesome to have you on the show. I've really appreciated it. And again, for an attraction that isn't many people's favourites, sort of delving behind the early days of it and behind the scenes a little bit, it's actually been really interesting. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was fun to pick at old scar tissue.
Oh, buddy.
He's not going to sleep well tonight. Those nightmares will be coming. I do apologise. But yeah, that's going to wrap up another episode of the show. And of course, we will wrap up this episode like we do every week with a Universal Is. And I have asked Zane if he will supply this week's. But of course, if you want to get involved, all you got to do is let us know what you think Universal is in 3 words or less and send them to us at podcast@uuopodcast.com. But for now, I want to hand it over to Zane. So Zane, it is over to you.
Universal Is ride the movies.
I mean, Universal
Classic.
couldn't put it better themselves.
Yeah.
Perfect. Cool. Right. We'll see everyone next week.
Guess that wraps things up for another unofficial Universal Orlando podcast. You guys did all right. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Pinterest, keyword UUO Podcast. Listen and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or anywhere podcasts are found. You can find our blog at uuopodcast.com. Send us your spews, which Lou gets your poo recordings, questions, or comments to podcast@uuopodcast.com. Check out our friends, the Theme Park Duo, and our awesome sponsors, Mouse and Muggle Travel Company. So, until next time, don't give up your day job. Say cheese. See you later.